Hey guys, what a weekend. What a weekend. Thomas Crooks attempted to assassinate President Trump. He did murder one of Trump's supporters in the stands and seriously injured another man who may die. And we were still trying to figure out the motive. And I don't know if we're ever going to get the motive. This looks like something that happened at the beginning of my life when I was born in 1963. Yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald. The parallels are amazing between Thomas Crooks and Lee Harvey Oswald. This is this generation's Lee Harvey Oswald. Just from the beginning. I mean, they were both white men in their early 20s. Thomas Crooks was 20 years old. Lee Harvey Oswald was 24. They both, in just the crime, they went up in the building to commit the crime. In the case of Lee Harvey Oswald, he went in the Texas School Book Depository building on the 6th floor. And with Thomas Crooks, he had a ladder and he got on top of the roof across from the rally where Trump was speaking and attempted to assassinate him. So he had a rifle. Lee Harvey Oswald had a rifle. They both shot. They both hit the president in the head. Lee Harvey Oswald just hit dead on, though, and exploded JFK's brains out. Whereas Thomas Crooks, he was off by less than an inch, and he hit President Trump's ear. Again, another inch, it would have been just like JFK. And then we get into, well, you know, who are these people? Who was Thomas Crooks, and who was Lee Harvey Oswald? Well, they were both young men in their 20s, and they were both, I guess, personality type. According to people that knew Thomas Crooks, he was a real loner in high school, kind of the weird kid. I guess he was bullied. Lee Harvey Oswald, from all reports, he was that way too, an extreme introvert, a very troubled kid, didn't really get along with others. And there was a lot of strange things in both incidents. Because what happened immediately when there's a shooting, everyone's trying to figure out, oh, let's look at this person's social media. Are they a Democrat or are they a Republican? You know, this is the game everyone plays. What was their race? And there's this big hunt on to get their name to figure this out. But with Thomas Crooks, it was really weird because no one could really find anything. This guy seemed to have no presence on social media, which is really weird for a 20-year-old in 2024 not to be on social media when you're you would think fairly political. You're trying to kill a candidate for the United States and a former president, President Trump. You got to have some passion there, you would think, in politics. And if you looked at Thomas Crooks, he wasn't like apolitical. He registered as a Republican when he turned 18. When I was 18, I never registered for any political party. So everyone, when the left saw that, they're like, aha, he's a MAGA Republican. I'm like, okay, so why would a MAGA Republican, which by definition means you love Trump, why would someone that loves Trump want to assassinate Trump? I don't know. That's a weird way of showing it, right? And then we got some more information, and this is all valid information we got from the mainstream news, is Thomas Crooks, after he registered as a Republican, he gave a donation to a left-wing cause called Progressive Turnout Project. You can Google it, and they're an extreme leftist organization that helps to get Democrats elected. So this is like, well, wait a minute. You register as a Republican, and then within a year or so, you turn around and give some money. I think it was $15 to this left-wing organization that's pro-Democrats. This isn't really making a lot of sense here. But this is also the background of Lee Harvey Oswald. Initially, he grew up in a family that was pretty conservative. Lee Harvey Oswald went into the Marines. He was a big fan of JFK. At one point, he liked that book, Profiles in Courage. He read it. That was written in 1956, I believe, by JFK. And then he became disillusioned. Lee Harvey Oswald, he got kind of mixed up into communism, the pro-Castro movement. and his life was a mess. He got out of the Marines and he had like no direction. So he looked into politics to find himself some direction. And he actually went to Russia, defected to Russia to live there. And I think he married a Russian woman. But then he became disillusioned with that, came back to the United States, and then he shot JFK. And the motive for that we will never know, because he was killed. He was himself assassinated. So, but before he was assassinated, Oswald said, "Hey, I'm just a patsy." And a patsy, if you don't know what that means, that was a term for someone that's easily influenced. You're using them as kind of a tool. You manipulate someone. I don't know. I don't know if that's what happened, but that's what Oswald claimed to the press before he was assassinated himself. So we have this in Thomas Crooks, a very similar thing, that it looks like a guy that was a loner, was trying to find meaning in life, may have initially been a Republican, but became disillusioned, got into this Marxism stuff, and he had a hatred of both of these people, Oswald and Crooks. The reason they were losers in life had nothing to do with politics. And I think this is an important point. A lot of times people like to blame outside forces. And it's like, no, Oswald, you were a screw up because of who you were, your mental state. And Crooks was probably the same way, his mental state. So they look for politics to try to make their life better, or ideology. In both, they did the similar path. It looks like Oswald was initially sort of like a conservative type. Then he became, he supported JFK when he was younger. Then he got into communism. Then he became disillusioned with communism. And he had a lot of anger that the government or the politics or the politicians weren't going to save his life on either side. And Crooks, I think we could see a similar thing here, where maybe he was initially a Trump supporter. I don't know. We're still trying to get this information. But for whatever reason, he supported left-wing politics enough to actually donate to the cause. I've never donated to a political group like that. That's conservative or liberal. I've never done that. But this guy did, Crooks. So he had some motivation enough to give money to this cause. And then he, like Oswald, he was willing to, he had to figure he's going to lose his life, just like Oswald. He was willing to literally try to assassinate a president by taking a rifle, planning it out. This wasn't like just a fit of anger. It requires some planning. You had to get the ladder where the president was going to speak. You get your rifle. Figure this all out, kind of like Oswald did. So if you're doing that, you're pretty dedicated. You have a lot of anger. This isn't just something in your head. You're actually acting upon it. And like the Oswald situation, I don't think we'll ever know the motive, and it's going to be the subject to endless conspiracy theories. That could be true. And that's the thing, there could be some truth to it. There was always the idea that Oswald, maybe he was a patsy, maybe he was set up, maybe, I'm not saying he didn't do it, but maybe certain groups were trying to influence him to do a certain thing. Sometimes groups do, like the CIA, FBI, they have a long history. They target troubled young men they can use as a tool, as a weapon to try to manipulate these young guys. Oswald always claimed the CIA was doing that with him. Probably was. Again, he defected to Russia. He definitely was on the radar. We've heard from the mainstream news that Crooks was on the radar of law enforcement. And we know the history of the United States, even recently, how the FBI, they get young men, especially white men, that they have some views that could be extreme one way or the other, and then they start to target them on instant messages or Facebook or message boards, and attempting to get them to accelerate or to do some crimes. Remember, you had that fake kidnapping attempt in Michigan that turned out to be just an FBI plot. We see this a lot. This is sadly what our intelligence agencies do frequently. So I could see them getting someone like Crooks on their radar and saying, here's a guy we can manipulate to do something for us. And sometimes they can't really control it. Sometimes it gets out of hand from where they want it to go. But that's definitely a possibility. He was on their radar for whatever reason, but he was still able to do this. And probably a likely scenario was Crooks was very similar to Oswald in that he was a loner. He had troubles in life. He had a lot of angst about. He had no future. And it's like, what does this all mean? So he's going to grab onto politics. Oswald got into communism, Marxism. It looks like Crooks did basically the same thing, where he was donating money to a left-wing cause. And then eventually he realized that, wait a minute, my life's not getting better. And he had a lot of anger to the system. And in the case of Oswald, it's like his hero, JFK, his virtual daddy let him down. And that could be a motivation to assassinate him. In the same way, Crooks could feel the same way too. Maybe at one time, when he was a teenager, he liked Trump. Remember, this guy, Crooks was only 20 years old. So when Trump was in office, he was just a young teenager. And then as he got older, he got disillusioned. And then he got into the radical left-wing politics. And then he looks at Trump as, yeah, you're literally Hitler. And the reason my life sucks is because of you. So there's a lot of rage as a symbol, very similar to Oswald. And then again, they could have been influenced by the so-called deep state. I don't know. I mean, we will never know. They're going to keep that secret. And I think this is going to be a case we never get it in an official motive. Both sides will have their theories. The Democrats will say, oh, look he was a registered Republican, so he's one of you guys. And the Republicans will say, well, wait a minute, he was giving money to you guys, to your left-wing causes. And we just don't have much to go on. And I think always there'll be conspiracy theories about that. And some of them could be true. Talk to you guys later.